But now it became a matter of praying. And I traveled from mosque to mosque to mosque, praying and asking imams to answer the questions that I had. The biggest issue that I had, I didn't even get to tell you the biggest issue I had. It had to do with the Quran. It's found all over the Quran, but there was one verse that caught my eye. It's chapter 4, verse 24 of the Quran, the surah on women. 434 is the one that people normally focus on, but 424 was a bigger deal to me. In it, it said, allowed for you are women whom you have married, and those whom your right hands possess. So allowed for you are your wives, and those whom your right hands possess. What does that mean? You know, it doesn't really make sense to me. So I asked my parents what it means, and my parents said, Nabil, it means that you're allowed to marry your handmaidens, because the women whom your right hands possess, those are your handmaidens. Those are your slaves, or your servants. My parents never called them slaves. Those are your servants. And you can marry them if you choose. But I said that doesn't make sense, because it says allowed for you are your wives and those whom your right hands possess. So wives are a separate category. Women you've married are over here. Here are other people, and they're allowed as well. For what? And she said, well, I don't know any more than that. If you want to know more, go look at the commentary. And so I went to the hadith, and I looked it up. Sahih Muslim tells us, he gives multiple cases of this, but the one, I'm going to kind of conflate them, but they're all there in the Sahih. Soldiers of Muhammad approached Muhammad out on the battlefield, and they said to him, Muhammad, we are far away from our wives, and we are in want of sexual relief. We have these slave women. We do not want to get them pregnant. So is it okay for us to pull out early, or should we just finish? And Muhammad's response is, it doesn't matter whether you pull out early or if you finish, they'll get pregnant either way. In other words, Muhammad says, these women whom you've captured on the battlefield, you can have intercourse with them. We read in other hadith, also found in Sahih Muslim, that they're asking if they can do that while their husbands are still alive. And you can hear their husbands groaning from among the prisoners. Another hadith clarifies that they ask if they can do that, even if they're planning on selling the women into slavery. And Muhammad says yes. So what is being said here? Let's draw this stuff together, the commentary, and I'll provide all the references for you over the next few days. Muhammad says that women who've been captured on the battlefield, whose husbands are still alive, whose family was just slaughtered, and who've lost everything, their way of life, they're about to become slaves, these women can be used for sexual relief, made pregnant, and then sold into slavery. If that is not rape of the worst kind, I don't know what is. And this is in the Quran? Chapter 4:24? Allowed for you are those whom your right hands possess. You can have intercourse with your slave women? I couldn't stand for that. That for me was unconscionable. I mean, all the other things that were going on in Muhammad's life and in the Quran I could kind of explain away. A lot of people have an issue with the fact that when Muhammad was 49, he married a 6-year-old girl. And that when he was 52, he consummated that relationship with her. She was 9 years old. A lot of people have an issue with that. I did what most Muslims do, which is say that was for that time and place. They were different then. Now we're supposed to do something else. A lot of Muslims contextualize it that way, even though it really doesn't work theologically speaking. However, this I could not overlook, because I immediately imagined my mother or my sister having been captured in battle after having lost me or my father. Would that be something a good and just God would allow? No. And so when I would go from mosque to mosque, I would ask imams, I would say, explain this to me. And not just this, I had a slew of objections that David had brought up, and I'd say, can you explain these for me? And we'd go through them, and I was still Muslim at the time. I would wake up early to go pray the morning prayer at the mosque, even if it meant walking a mile. I remember in London, when I went to the London mosque, I would walk a mile to get to the mosque to pray in the morning. And I'd walk back. By the time I got back, I'd be hungry, and then I'd eat, and I'd walk for the afternoon prayers. It pretty much consumed my time there, but it was worth it because I wanted to seek God, and I wanted to find the answers to these questions. And no imam that I brought the questions to was able to provide a good answer, quite frankly, because there is none. There is no good answer. This is exactly what the hadith record. The best an imam could do is they could say, well, these hadith are not trustworthy. Like all of them, this whole genre of hadith are not trustworthy because there's more than one. Yes, none of them are trustworthy. It was all made up. Then how can I trust them for anything? If they're so horribly fabricated at a very fundamental level, how can I trust them for anything? And the answer was, well, you can trust them if they teach according to the spirit of Islam. Well, what is the spirit of Islam? Am I not getting the spirit of Islam from the hadith? No, you're supposed to turn to the Quran. Well, the Quran had this in 424. And you can see the arguments would just go. And ultimately their response was, you have to listen to us. You're being rebellious. You're not being a respectful young boy. You need to listen to your elders. Which is a legitimate position in our culture. Stop asking questions. Shut up and just do what we say.
What is Islam's view on concubines?
A Muslim man can have up to 4 wives at once. And in addition to the 4 wives, he can have an unlimited number of concubines, which refer to women who are basically have slave status. When they are owned by her master, a woman owned by her master has to freely give herself to the master. The master has the right to have sexual relations with her as though she were one of his wives. And
how does consent play into this at all, or can we?
The understanding is that by virtue of the fact that she's owned, she does not have the right to consent. Or to withhold herself from her master. The master has the full right over her, and her consent does not play anything in this relationship.